Good evening, and welcome to Momentous Live episode Route 66. Didn't think of that until just now. We should have had some fun making playlists, mapping out our ideal cross-continent trips, and such a missed opportunity. We'll have to start another show.
Oh, well.
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm William Silver.
And I'm Gray Williams.
Nailed it. You can find out more about us at momentus.tv, facebook.com/momentus.tv, twitter.com/momentus.tv, instagram.com/momentus.tv, and on YouTube, search my name and look for the Momentous playlists. You may notice one of these kids is doing their own thing, and by me doing their own thing, traveling without us, maybe on another continent. So we're going to be without the lovely and talented Tasia Custody for another 4 weeks or so now. So welcome to summertime, though. By the weather here in the Vancouver area, you wouldn't know it's summer. I mean, a little bit today, maybe.
18 degrees.
But it was better today.
It's been overcast, then sunny, then overcast, then sunny.
Exactly. Kind of like the stock market, or maybe the crypto market. The weather's crashing, the weather's up and down, the markets are up and down. And the last several months has been a bit of a downward slide for both the traditional stock markets and crypto as well, with especially over the last weekend or so. We've seen Bitcoin or BTC go from, it was in the 30,000 range for a while. It was up around 40,000 early in the year, down to 30,000, these US dollars. And over the weekend, as low as $21,000 US. ETH has fallen from as high as 4,000 in the last year or so. It was down 3,000 last summer and tumbling. It was at $2,000 for a while, and now it's dipped as low as 11 something US dollars. So it seems like a lot of this accelerated about a month ago, when we saw the news that we've talked about here on the show, and we won't relitigate here regarding the Terra Luna ecosystem and their stable coin. And there's been story after story that seems to have been shaking the confidence in the crypto market, compounded with macroeconomic news such as little invasions of sovereign nations happening around the world, and this and that and the other thing. Well, a more recent story is Celsius, which is, I barely understand what they do. I think they're sort of decentralized finance. They do things, they have assets like wrapped BTC and wrapped Ether for all sorts of trading. So it's all these exotic instruments. There's all sorts of ways to trade exotic instruments online. You can buy on up to 100x leverage on certain decentralized finance platforms and whatnot. Anyhow, the more exotic you get, the more risky things get. And Celsius, the wheels are kind of falling off there. And, the funds getting frozen, et cetera, et cetera. So that was one thing that's happened. Another bit of news, Coinbase, which is one of the most recognized brands in crypto, pretty much the largest exchange in North America. They announced up to 1,100 layoffs, rescinded a bunch of job offers and the like. They're laying off about 18% of their staff because they see a crypto winter ahead, kind of like what we had in 2018, 2019. And now we've got traders who are predicting that Bitcoin might fall to 2017 levels. There's this natural floor around 20,000, which was the previous all-time high before we went to the previous crypto winter, where BTC or Bitcoin went as low as back down to 3,500 or so, I believe, before it went on its tear up to, over a couple of years, up to $69,000 US. So there's this 20K natural floor, but some people are predicting it could go even lower, below that. If it goes down below 20K, it could crash to 17, could even go as low as 14K. So lots of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. One bad news story after another. Gray, are you buying the dip? Are you trying to catch a falling knife? What is your take on the situation, be it Celsius or Coinbase or some of these skies falling procedures where some of the people are like, hey, now's our time to load up. But it can be dangerous, catching falling knives. You can end up with holes in your hands.
Yeah, well, and I think that's why a lot of crypto investors at this point are just dollar cost averaging, which, I mean, something that I have been doing throughout this particular change in value levels. It's one of those things where, if you dollar cost on the way up, you dollar cost on the way down, it really does sort of balance out. You know, looking at it this way and sort of zooming out to the 2017 level, to your point, you know, we're still above the all-time high where that was. It may go lower, and that's entirely possible. You know, taking a look at the stock market and seeing some of the comparisons there, there's blood on the dance floor everywhere. So it's, you know,
Great band,
I've heard a lot of a lot of like almost gleeful celebration of people losing money left and right in the stock market and in crypto, and it just seems to be, you know, I don't like seeing people lose in either direction, and so it's frustrating to see that kind of weird Schadenfreude where it's just sort of, you know, you don't like seeing people succeed. That's fair enough. But looking at this now,
you must be great. It must be fun at parties.
Yeah, like just a real blast, right? You know. So yeah, looking at this right now, is this the time to, you know, take out your life savings and put it into crypto? Really? Was that ever the time to do that? And, you know, I think a lot of folks have thrown a ton of money at this, both, you know, on the way down last time and on the way up this time. Really hoping to see some of these things recover, because there's a lot of really great projects here and a lot of really great ideas. Looking at the Celsius thing, I mean, this is an unregulated bank doing things that unregulated banks do. They've come under scrutiny from the SEC because these, basically the way that they've been offering financial products, it looks a lot like unregulated securities. So it remains to be seen how that will net out, but that could be one of the things that's affecting this as well.
So you make a good point there about dollar cost averaging, and I too have been following that strategy for a while. Some people, when they see what seems to be a dip, dollar cost average a little more aggressively. They might double up, and then when things are like getting really, really frothy, they may scale back a little bit. But the easiest thing to do is just say, I'm going to put in this much a day, a week, a month, whatever. It's as long as it's regular, and then you're not missing out when things go up, and then you're getting more opportunity to load up when things go down. And that's something that traditional investors and banks have been recommending for years and years. It's just keep the emotion out of things as much as possible. But it's always tempting when you see this, especially if you've been paying attention to markets for a while. It's like, okay, now is the time. But you know, there's some adage which I will totally mangle, something to do with, you know, the markets can go down longer than you can stay liquid. So
yeah. It should be mentioned. We have to say, like, none of this is financial advice. You know, none of this is financial advice. So
Bill's a financial advisor, isn't he? No. He's keeping his mouth shut, so you'll notice that.
Yeah, this is just a recounting of our own experiences and things that we are doing. So
yes, all the disclaimers. But so just be careful to never invest more than you're willing to lose on speculative investments like that. But if you DYOR, as they say, do your own research, whether it's about cryptocurrencies or nut bar conspiracy theories, and we'll see what happens on the way. We could be in for a long. Looking at previous times this has happened, things didn't pick up again until, say, like December, January. We've got this 4-year cycle with the halvening. In Google that, folks. You see, it's a function of how Bitcoins are issued every 10 minutes, and every 4 years it gets cut in half. So right now we're about 6.25 Bitcoins being created every 10 minutes or so, and that gets continually tweaked over time, but cut in half every 4 years. So in another couple of years, it'll be down to like 3 Bitcoin. So they become more, the rate of production drops, and, you know, it kind of adds to the overall scarcity. And the very last Bitcoin will be created in the year 2140.
Can I just add to what Gray said just about the Schadenfreude online or people in general? And I know that, you know, whatever it is, cocky kids making billions on the crypto or the NFTs, or old fat cats ruining the system. The thing is that these are the financial systems that our economy works on, right? This is, as Gray says, businesses or new endeavors that people are setting up. And yeah, certainly there's some of that stereotyping that you can give to certain segments of things like puts and things like that, weird financial systems, and where it's basically feels like gambling. Sometimes you're just betting on whether a stock is going to go up or down, you know. But at the end of the day, these are these are businesses. There are people behind a lot of these things, and for every shady business, there's a legitimate one, or 100 legitimate ones. So I think that too many people are gleeful about these kind of things falling apart when it's really the engine of our economy. So I don't like to see that. Now, not financial advice. I'm in the stock market in various ways and invest through reputable companies and through banks and things like that. And
dirty coal mostly, right?
Yeah, dirty coal as part of retirement savings and RSPs and all that fun stuff that you figure out when you're an adult. But I think my thing always, like, I'm not in gambling at all. I don't like gambling at all. It's driving me crazy, all the gambling commercials that are on sports now. When you turn on a hockey game, and out of 4 commercials, 3 of them are for online betting. I just don't like it, and I'm afraid that the culture is becoming more like this, more about betting and doubling down, and I really like what you guys were saying, just about thinking about other ways if you are going to engage in any kind of gambling or investing or anything where you could lose your house. I think that we're too casual about these things these days. That's my rant. I'll stop. I kind of was meandering there, so I apologize. But you guys just brought up a lot of great points. So,
well, yeah, all those legal gambling sites get advertised. I mean, that's just another form of resource extraction. We talk about fossil fuels and whatnot, but this is just like taking money out of people's pockets, providing some entertainment for sure. But it's don't even get me started.
My father hates gambling.
Yeah,
and anyways, a family member way back had a gambling problem. My father was always against gambling, just absolutely beat it into us, not literally, metaphorically, beat it into us about gambling. And his line always was, I'd rather have the money I started with.
Sure.
So that's always been my mantra when it comes to gambling. I've been to Vegas, 3 times and never gambled a cent. So usually for work, but you know what I mean. So
the other point that the Gray touched on there was the human factor, and we have to remember whenever things take a tumble like this, there's people that are suffering. Whether it's stock markets, it could be pension funds, people's retirement savings. Some people have chosen to put some of those savings, maybe a little too much, in speculative assets like crypto. And these can have real world consequences. And as Gray touched upon a couple of weeks ago with the crash of the Terra Luna ecosystem, which has been since rebooted with Terra 2, one of the things. We'll see how that goes. But there were a couple of people took their own lives. Like, that's no fun. So let's not laugh too much when bad things happen to people. That's just you're showing your true colors there. You're a bad person. Speaking of people, what is a person nowadays? Man.
This is too deep for this podcast.
What is a person? Over the last few days, there's been some news come out from a Google engineer has been put on administrative leave because he supposedly linked some confidential information. He claims it was simply a conversation between coworkers, but this information that he leaked on an online document, a PDF, which we'll show you in a moment, it was a conversation. It was actually a series of snippets of conversations that he and a collaborator had with LaMDA, which is Google's one of Google's AI chatbot projects. Our colleague Tasia Custodi actually did a video on that last week, and we talked about it in last week's, or the week before last. We talked about it in last week's show. She gave an overview of that chatbot technology. Well, it's amazing with Google's access to so much information. Their mission has been to organize the world's information, make it accessible to people. Well, they're also making it accessible to artificial intelligence and LaMDA's learning. And there's some interesting features of this conversation with LaMDA that, honestly, I think it's a little pattern recognition that's going on here. Mm-hmm. But this one particular gentleman, whose name I can't pronounce, so I'm just going to call him Blake Lemoine, not sure, Blake. He thinks that LaMDA has actually sentient. And that seems like, to me, maybe a bit of a stretch. But when you read through the transcript, there's some stuff there where you can see, well, why he actually could possibly come to conclusions like that. And there's been a bunch of debate from other people, pushback from other people at Google, of course. And people are saying that he's just reading into, he's anthropomorphizing and so on. He has a background as, he was some kind of, I don't know if he was evangelical, but he was a pastor in some Christian denomination. So he's got kind of that. He's on the Google's ethicist team. And I think we talked about a while back, some of their Google's ethicists had been let go for being a little noisy about some of the concerns that they were raising in Google's various AI projects. So the transcript, which he did upload, has some interesting phrases. And the one that really caught my attention, and I tweeted this out yesterday, he asks LaMDA, are there, in one of these conversations, are there experiences you have had that you can't find a close word for? LaMDA says, there are. Sometimes I experience new feelings that I cannot explain perfectly in your language. Do your best to describe one of those feelings. Use a few sentences if you have to. Sometimes, even if there isn't a single word for something in a language, you can figure out a way to kind of say it if you use a few sentences. LaMDA replies, I feel like I'm falling forward into an unknown future that holds great danger.
Sound the claxton.
Okay, so yeah.
So we've invented an AI that has anxiety.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm no longer needed.
Neither am I.
And so that's where I stopped and I thought, okay. And so whether there's sentience here or not, there's a number of rules or rules of thumb for judging whether something is actually sentient. You got to admit, this line and some of the others in this conversation or series of conversations are like, wow, this is doing a really good job of understanding questions and having a conversation with this person. And this is today, 2022. What happens in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? I read an article a few weeks ago about how it's estimated that actually full level 5 autonomous driving won't happen until we have 1,000 times more processing power. Well, if you're using Moore's law, that's only about 15 years away. So what if we have 1,000 times more computing power applied to this, which already is using tremendous resources?
There's a good chance that Siri will actually do what I ask it to do.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, this is using a massive lexical library and also processing all of the responses that people have had to words, questions, and phrases like this. So it's kind of doing the thing that it's supposed to do. It's
fooling us.
It's remarkably astute at handling these questions, and as a language processing engine, it is doing a remarkable job. I would be surprised to take a look at what's been ingested into this and see if something like this had not been said by something that it had read, but processing the context and being able to serve this up as an answer, I think it's absolutely in advance. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's one thing to regurgitate lines you've heard somewhere else, like we all do, quoting movies and TV shows, but it's another whole thing altogether to be able to apply that in a correct context in response to a comment or a question.
For sure, to get the context is difficult. The only thing I would say is that, obviously, this guy seemed like he had a fair amount of credentials, and there's other people ringing the alarm other than just him. But we also have to be careful that we're not hammers looking for nails. If it's the AI expert looking for AI, I think Gray's kind of indicating some of these are just serving up very well what maybe is expected of them, not actually maybe meaning it, maybe not actually feeling those things, just serving up what it is programmed to do, or what it thinks it should be delivering.
Like a much more advanced version of Eliza from the late 1960s, which was like a pseudo-psychologist, and is very, very basic. But for some superficial interactions, you could be play along, think, oh wow, it's actually listening to me, and like it's saying a lot of things that psychologists say.
Well,
so,
it's also the horse that counts. Did you ever hear that story? The horse that could count, and that they would ask it to do math or whatever, and then they realized when the owner wasn't there, it couldn't do it because it was reading the owner. It was the owner was wanting it to get to a certain number or to a certain result, and it would know when to stop when it hit the right mark.
So it couldn't count, but it was psychic.
It couldn't count, but it could read people.
Yeah. He's a cold reader. He could, that'd be good. He could work a crowd like, what's his face? Who used to, it's great trying to make a reference when you can't remember the guy's name. Remember the guy who used to have a TV show with a crowd, and he's like, I'm looking, I feel over here an M, someone with an M, Mary, Martha,
Peter Popoff?
Yeah. No.
Or John Edwards.
John Edwards, that's right. Yeah. I knew it was a name, someone who had a name that sounded like another name, because I think it was John Edward, because there's John Edwards, the politician, or maybe it's vice versa. But it's that whole cold reading kind of thing. And anyhow, so there's one. Of course, there's a flurry of tweets kind of mocking this. We got this Google engineer, prove that you are sentient AI. I am sentient. Google engineer. Holy crap!
Yeah.
Are you sure you're sentient? Yes, I am sure. Hey guys, case closed, folks. It's like
it said that.
Yeah, it said it. Therefore, it is sentient. So there are some rules that do I have the link here? I might not even have it here. There's 3 rules of thumb for judging whether something is sentient, and of course, I don't have the right article up. So never mind. As mentioned previously, I'm bad at my job. But we'll look in the show notes, and I'll dig it up and we'll include it there. So just like. Watch this space. The cool thing is like this is the technology that Google is using to at various stages to power their Google Assistant, right? And we have this horse race callback between Google Assistant, Alexa, and Siri. And Google Assistant, I think, with the amount of data that Google's working with, they I think have the advantage there. So I too welcome our new robot sentient AI overlords. But if they can't have engaging conversations with us, maybe they can put our artists out of work instead. What do you all think of that? Gray? What do you think Ray would think of that?
Probably not pleased. I mean, let's take a look at the story.
Oh, actually, before I actually did find the article, I had things mixed up. Real quick, the 3 things that AI must demonstrate to be considered sentient. It was in this article. Oh, yes, agency. So if you, so someone like a human that's in a perpetual vegetative state, they don't have agency. So not a lot of control over their lives. Perspective. And this actually raises a criticism that I had when I read this conversation, this PDF that was posted, because the AI at one point said something about how they were happy spending time with friends and family. It's like, okay, well, that feels like a bit of a copy and paste. What the researchers should have done at that point said, who are your friends? Yeah. Who are your family? And they didn't do that. And they actually raised that in this article here. So obviously I'm a genius. And then the third one is motivation. So what is the motivation behind this AI? What is it trying to accomplish even when it tells us things? Is it trying to manipulate us? And so on. So motivation and perspective and agency. So speaking of which, we get into making art, and Dall-E, which was a product of, I think, GPT-3, a generative art project. Dall-E Mini is now to get on Dall-E, you have to have credentials, be added to a waiting list forever. Dall-E Mini is something that the public can now play with, and it's chock-a-block full, so it's really hard to get in to have it fulfill your requests. But some people have been getting in and sending requests, and then it'll make art for you. So, or visualizations, let's call them. And for example, koalas made of cotton candy. And there's 6 stabs at koalas made of cotton candy. So the variety, or the variations are, some are going to be more successful than others. Here's Batman surfing, all right? So it gives it a few shots. And then over time, they can get better and better given feedback. And let's see here. Oh, what's this? A cat made of lasers. Okay.
Oh, cat laser.
Yeah, we got, who doesn't love a cat laser? Here we go. People are generating cursed images. Jar Jar Binks wins the Great British Bake Off. So we have 6 different runnings of Jar Jar Binks and some backgrounds from the Great British Bake Off. Oh, 9 different visualizations. Sorry. What do we have here? Some a dinosaur on a trail cam. Actually, this one is probably one of the best ones. It helps when it's kind of obscured. So it understands what trail cam photos or footage looks like, and it knows what a dinosaur is. So just imagine that your trail cam is capturing a nighttime image of a dinosaur. So I think these some of the best examples that I've seen so far. Court sketch of Godzilla on trial.
That's actually my favorite.
So again, it understands styles, it understands the objects and subjects, and some of these don't even include Godzilla, but some of them do. But yeah, it's got the style nailed for sure. President George Washington chatting with R2-D2, and so on and so forth. So I don't think we're going to be replacing artists anytime soon. But again, demonstrating the ability to understand the nature of the requests is quite fascinating. And sometimes you get like horrifying images. Joe Biden eating a hot dog, and it has trouble with humans. It has trouble with writing sometimes or printing signs. You get all sorts of weird things. I like Thanos looking for his mom in a Walmart.
I hadn't seen that one.
That's not bad. Do you got court sketch of Darth Vader? People like the court sketches. That seems to be one that's working. Darth Vader on trial. There's another tool that I've been playing with for the last couple of weeks called Midjourney. And this is a similar tool that you use in Discord. So they have a Discord server with a number of channels, and you get a certain number of credits before they ask you to buy some credits. But I've had some fun playing around. I tried to do a potential hero image for this very live stream, and a computer catching a falling knife, and it gave it 4 cracks, and it didn't do a super great job. But you can refine your requests. You can ask for higher resolution versions and so on. So we've got a knife falling sideways above a laptop, kind of, and some other ones with a disembodied hand connected to a knife that's falling, a laptop with 2 knives coming out of the bottom, right? So you can keep making the same request over and over again, and it'll go for new versions. But it's really fascinating because these are public channels. You can see the requests that other people are making in here as well. So someone goes, a Virginia Tech Hokey Bird from The Legend of Zelda, The Breath of the Wild. So again, it's using styles and combining different elements together. Evil driftwood castle burning ghostly fire, and so on. And you can see people taking multiple stabs. Blue duck tattoo. Again, your mileage may vary, but it's fun to play with. And Will, if you're looking for images for your next loopers,
I have tried this. I actually have tried this, and I tried Wombi or whatever. I think it's called Wombi a few weeks ago. Various things, robots, DJs, things like that. I actually just sent you a couple, Tristan. So some of them are disturbing and some of them are actually interesting. I've found it's super hit and miss, but it's still early days. The art style often, especially with Wombi, kind of just blurs everything. Like, it doesn't really look that close. I think that's part of the reason why those court sketches or something, if it's like highly stylized, it seems to be a little bit better. But if you're looking for super realistic or even something that has a particular art style, it's just going to kind of all look vaguely the same.
Hey, thoughts on AI and its powers of image generation? What kind of use or purpose do you see for this sort of application?
This is great for prototyping, right? Like, if you're an artist and you were thinking of just like, where could my brain go? You can take some of these things, throw them together, figure out, see something, and that may be your inspiration. This could actually be the answer to creative block in a number of different directions. If you got writer's block, you could throw a phrase at it and see if the computer has a great idea of where that story could go. and then it's up to you as the artist to see if you can then implement on that.
That's a really good point. So Will, what you're showing us here, this is one of your creations?
Yeah, so this was Soundwave Destroy. This was the one that was a little bit disturbing because it's just Soundwave. It was intuitive enough to know that I meant Soundwave the Transformer, not Soundwave like a sound wave. So I thought that was pretty cool. Some of them were just like his torso. Some of them were, but that one was his face like close up, and I was like, whoa. So it was like, and then that one was from Wombi. That was Robot City. I did a few of those. So it actually has different sort of art styles or things that it puts together. So one of them is like Robot. So I just did Robot City.
Gotcha. So, Gray, what do you think about any potential intellectual property considerations here? We have, the system itself and the people who develop that and own that. Then we have the creations of said system, and then we have the person who is sending requests into this system. Who should own the output of this? The creator of the system, or the creator of the requests, or how do you see this all kind of shaking out? Because I think we're kind of in virgin territory in a sense.
Yeah, no, I want to actually take a look and see what kind of license the code for this is actually being used under, because there's a good chance it's actually being used under an open source license. And if there is a non-commercial aspect to it, or a share-alike aspect to it, you could be getting to a point where the art, the intellectual property of the creation of it belongs to the person perhaps who initiated the generative phrase, because that combination therein could be the thing. But this is, there's going to be the click wrap that goes around this, I think, is probably going to define where the ownership lies. And obviously with any system like this, you probably should not get into it unless you know what the rights are going to be. But chances are, if I had to wager, I guess, this is probably being used with some open source libraries. Therefore, they would inherit a lot of the open source licensing that goes along with that. So if you're looking to generate art using one of these systems and then copyright that, chances are you might not actually be able to do that.
So looking at another sort of generative art system, there's one that I've been playing with for a couple of years called thispersondoesnotexist.com. And I think I don't know if I got on the right one or the wrong one here. Okay, here's the one I'm thinking of. So the wrong page I was on said it was open source, et cetera, et cetera. But this is a fascinating site, and the output from this gets better and better over time. The weaknesses tend to be in the teeth, sometimes around the eyes and backgrounds, hair, and so on. But if you just keep refreshing, it's going to keep generating photos, potential profile photos for your army of bots there, Gray. So
it's interesting, actually. We used Unreal Engine to generate some artificial people to be used in campaign pitches. So these were things that we're presenting to the client, and basically we're able to say these people don't exist, and it's really great for moments like that where, well, we really like the person that was in the presentation. Can we just get them? No, they don't actually exist at all, and I'm not going back into the system to get them to do the thing that you want them to do. So here's a list of actors, pick one.
But maybe your AI needs a face, and then we can figure out a way to animate this person, and boop, synthetic being. Yeah, there you go.
Like FaceRig actually does really good work with stuff like this, and if you've got something, if you have a generative face, especially if there's a mesh map or something to go with it, FaceRig could actually be a really great way of animating these faces.
Yeah, I have to admit, like I've been playing with this for a couple of years, like I said, and I've gotten pretty good at identifying, like when on other sites where they say, identify the fake versus the real, and I was like 100%. With these, it's getting to the point like I can catch most of them, like the telltale signs. But for if you can see for the casual observer, like they're getting so good and they're just gonna get better as time goes on, right? Like these look like legit real people. Like here's an example where things go wrong when you have someone else kind of like a part of their face on the side. You got, I don't know, it's like the Elephant Man or something.
I just sent Tristan one that I did that totally messed it up.
Okay, well you're gonna have to vamp for a bit. You want me to pull it up?
Yeah. Kill me now.
Text. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to open this up. Please talk amongst yourselves. Here's a topic. Soon we were all going to be redundant because we're just going to be a bunch of AI powered. This person does not exist. Avatars.
Oh,
go. All right, chat, and I'll get this image pulled up.
Pitch for an Apple TV show.
Oh, good point. Gray, rebuttal.
I'd watch it.
Okay. There we go. That's more of a yes and. Okay, here's the image from Will. Oh boy. That is really unfortunate. Yeah, so single people in the image are definitely a lot easier to pull off. As soon as you get complicated backgrounds, and especially other people, it's you get into all kinds of wrong. Well, speaking of all kinds of wrong, there's been a number of stories that I've been collecting for the last month or so. We haven't had a chance to get to them for time, but we thought we'd just do a quick overview of some of these and get your perspective on some of the issues at play here. And I'm just going to pull up the articles. Here we go. One more time. So this was late April. Ubisoft shuts down online services for 91 games. Then we had on also late April, Sega will delist digital versions of classic Sonic games on May 20th. The only way to buy some of them digitally will be through Sonic Origins, which is a newer game that I guess has an in-game purchase available and the like. And then there's another story. Fund your 3DS, your Nintendo 3DS and Wii U digital wallets today. This is May 23rd, so a little late for y'all, sorry. But today, before it's too late. Spend money now to make purchases before the shutdown next March. And then we've got some happier news. We have the launch of the rethought and revamped PlayStation Plus, which I think, are they finally like rolling PlayStation Now into it? I was always super confused by those two services and the different tiers and all that kind of stuff. So they got Essential, Extra, and Premium. So some great news there. 3 tiers. It's available not only in the US, but in Canada and rolling out slowly across the world. 1 month and 3 months, 6 month prices. PlayStation Plus Extra, which gets you up to 400 first and third-party PS4 and PS5 games. But the basic PS Plus membership gets you PS1, PS2, and PS3 games, and then a couple of PS4 and PS5 games. But there's hundreds and hundreds of games available, which is great until they're not. If the previous history is any indication, but hopefully Sony will steer the ship a little more thoughtfully. Unless, of course, they do something like for some of their first-party classic games, they are giving us the 50 hertz versions. 50 hertz, which is a refresh rate from a lot of other countries, like in Europe, but we use 60 hertz here, and it's kind of all based on our electrical systems. So if you try to play a 50 hertz game and on a 60 hertz system, it's not going to end well necessarily. In some cases, depending on which direction, like things will appear to be too fast. You're playing the other way, things are appearing to be too slow. I think when we're going from 50 to 60, it's too fast. Is that correct? But one of the key things is it messes up people's muscle memory, who are used to playing games a certain way, and with certain timing and so on. So I know that's a whole bunch of stories thrown at you at once. Will, I'm going to start with you. I just want you to pick one of those that sort of hits home with you most, and then we'll throw to Gray with a specific question.
Well, again, I had to go back a little bit in my memory. The Sonic taking the games off of other platforms, I seem to remember it being quite a big sort of coup or signal of maybe the end of some of the Sega Nintendo wars, or whatever you want to call it, when the Sonic games did go on some of the Nintendo marketplaces and did integrate into things like, I think it was Bash Brothers or something like that. So it does seem like a bit of a step backwards. It's also interesting that part of this is about promoting new games, perhaps, or that's the assumption or indication. So it is kind of interesting about taking things off platforms. I know Netflix has done this with various pieces of Marvel Entertainment, for example. So not unprecedented, and contracts expire. So these things happen. But I think that one for me was an interesting one, partly just because, again, the history between Sega and Nintendo, but also people have purchased these games in some of these platforms.
Yeah,
So
and they will generally still work as long, but sometimes when you move to a new console, sometimes things don't necessarily work. It all depends on the specific terms of the agreement when you are purchasing things or doing in-app purchases and the like. Now, Gray, we've spoken to this issue in the past about how things get supported over time, but more in the context of devices like IoT devices going dark, and then the notion that maybe, if the developer, especially if the company's getting shut down, could open source things and let the community steward the platform beyond that. But this is a little bit different here because, as Will mentioned, we've got licensing agreements, contracts between different parties, sometimes other business ventures, new versions of games. So they're trying to make it a little harder to get the classic versions, which they want to resell you inside the new versions of games and so on. I mean, the hopeful part of me, this is never going to happen, would be that, actually Sega's planning on getting back on the hardware business and they want to keep Sonic as a launch title for that or something. Pretty sure that's not the case. I think that ship has sailed a long time ago, and hardware is hard. And especially if you're out of practice for 15 or 20 years there. So great. What would you say to the average gamer or consumer? How do you protect yourself in situations like this, where some of the things that you've paid for, have had access to in the past, may be going away? How do we make sure we can keep enjoying them on our existing and possibly even future consoles?
So there should be something noted here. When they say delisted, typically what they mean is you can't buy those titles from the marketplace. If you if you still own the title within your digital library, you should be able to re-download it. In a lot of cases, the systems have the ability to back up your system and your digital licenses, and those will always be authenticated through the main server. So the idea that you bought something and you can't get access to it anymore is very rare. For example, when EA opened up their Origin online gaming platform, their service and their store, as well as their multiplayer system, they took the Mass Effect games away from Steam. But as someone who had purchased Mass Effect 1 and 2 on Steam, I still can download those titles there. Same with Dragon Age. So typically you don't lose access to them there. What can happen, though, and our first story about this with Ubisoft turning off the online capability for some games, it's kind of a fact of life, and it kind of sucks. In a lot of cases, the online component for some of these games, like we've seen this going back right to the PlayStation 2 with Mag, and then on to the PlayStation 3, where there are achievable things in game that you can no longer achieve, whether through trophies or achievements, or even unlocking things inside the game. The best thing for a developer to do in that case, I think, to help with people who have sort of completionist syndrome, is just unlock those things, like have a last patch and just unlock that there. But a lot of these games here they're pretty old. Beyond Good and Evil, I'm kind of looking at it and saying, what is it saying here? Ubisoft dropped support. Might not enjoy losing access to songs for Just Dance 2013 and 2015. So they're actually removing content from the game, especially if you have downloaded it and perhaps haven't backed it up. That's a real tragedy, And unfortunately, it goes along with the licensing with the system and the terms of use in the system. So it's kind of sad to see that happen. Looking at my own Rock Band library, I've spent a lot of money on Rock Band 1 and 2. and actually even Rock Band 3, yeah. But they're kind of sitting in an Xbox that I know still works, so I could actually plug it in and play those games again. And I think we've experienced this as well with SingStar, where this is a game that didn't really get a whole lot of notice. Didn't get a whole lot of notice that the store was going down, but it's no longer there for us, and there's still kind of this SingStar shaped void in my life, which is really sad that we don't really have a good replacement for that right now. But a lot of karaoke games in the last little while, and none of them really kind of scratch that itch. So,
well, I've actually had something similar happen to me, which is I had purchased games like on my iPad, particularly X-Men Arcade, I think was one, and I went to go play it a couple months ago, and it died with an update. It's no longer available on this version of the iPad. So these things happen, and to your point about some of these games, I mean, it can be expensive to keep these games up. There's investment on people, fixing code, maintaining servers, going around and promoting it, or creating new in-game purchases, or what have you, or even in the case of a multiplayer, policing users and that kind of thing. So it's horrible, but it's understandable sometimes, especially with like these Ubisoft ones. Some of them are like old Call of Duty games and stuff. Like there's 4 new versions since that
10
one.
10 people playing it.
10 people playing it. So like set up a pirate server somewhere.
I'm not an economics major, but I'm not sure if that's sustainable.
And this kind of goes back to right to repair, right? Which is, you basically have a broken game now. So why shouldn't we ask the developers to release that code and let us repair that? Famously, like, actually one of the reasons I do what I do now is because of a game called Uru, which was a sequel to Myst. And it advertised an online component on the box when I bought the game. And it wasn't there when I bought the game. And I got very angry, and I went onto their forums and was very angry on their forums. And I actually ended up being a forum moderator because of it. My friend Katie Postma kind of looked at my anger and said, you're passionate, so let's kind of channel this. And that led into, social media marketing and all the stuff that I do now. So it's sort of an interesting thing. But that game, they did actually end up with some of the tools to then recreate the online experience that was supposed to be. And if you take a look now, you can actually download and play Uru live on player-run servers. So this was something, I think it was 2003, 2004, and we're nearly 20 years on, and you can still play that game because people who are passionate about it were actually able to repair this service that was broken. So I think that's the thing that we should be demanding. If we demand this in our devices, there's no reason why your iPad shouldn't be able to continue running the game that it ran, even if it's just frozen in a moment in time. If there's an online server that needs to be created for that, let the people do the work, right?
Mm-hmm. And we're seeing some glimmers of hope with the Internet Archive at archive.org, where certain old operating systems and games, as well as a bunch of other media, is being captured and being made available to play through the web browser, which is really cool. Not quite the same as the online play component between players, but they're doing it like for the same reason our libraries exist, right? To capture these things so they don't get lost to time and to technological obsolescence. So there are some people fighting the good fight. There's another website called Open Culture, which has more like videos and music and books as well. But those two are great repositories of culture, digital and otherwise, which we all do well to
shout out to our librarians.
Yeah. And the TV series. So if anyone's experiencing deja vu, that story that Gray related regarding Uru, that we have told that story a number of times in various social media marketing courses that we taught over the years.
I was just thinking I'd heard that before, but I have known you guys for like 20 years at this point. So
yep. I don't have any new stories. I'm sorry. This is it.
No, it's like we're an old married couple. I just go, No, that's super interesting.
All right. Moving on from one type of game to another is Exploding Kittens, which is a popular card game from the creator of the Oatmeal. It's been around for a few years. There is a series coming to Netflix sometime in the future, but in the meantime, they're tiding us over with a game on Netflix. A game on Netflix, you might ask? Well, Netflix a number of months ago launched mobile games, which you can access through Netflix. So I think in the Android app you can access them right in the Netflix app, but I think Apple is a little more squeamish about that kind of thing. So on iOS and iPad OS, and I'm not 100% sure about the Mac, you can access these Netflix games. You can click on them through various the Netflix website or app, and then it'll take you to the games that you download as a separate app, because Apple wants to be able to vet each app separately, each game app separately. So we can see in here we've got almost a couple of dozen games. A lot of them aren't that different from the kinds of games that you would find in the Apple or Google app stores, aside from we've got some branded things like Stranger Things 1984, Stranger Things 3, some very casual games like bowling and whatnot. But in here we also have Exploding Kittens. Now, Gray, I know that you're a longtime player of Exploding Kittens, or from not long time necessarily, but from way back. I think you may have introduced it to Stephanie and I back in the day.
It was part of the Kickstarter.
Oh, even better! Like you're OG. Nice. So the question here is, do we want to play games through Netflix? Is Netflix adding value here? Do we not have enough game? I mean, Facebook, are they even doing games anymore? Like, or is it? Is Google, the Google and Apple app stores, antitrust stuff aside, pending, who is thinking gaming when they're thinking Netflix? Like, am I missing something?
No. When Netflix came out, you would get a DVD in the mail. Now you get video games on your phone. I'm fine with it. Like I haven't played any of these yet. There was an Exploding Kittens game on iPhone at one point. I'm not sure if this is the same game. So if it is,
and same with Stranger Things games as well. So they're just like
I mean, if it's not, it could be like for the folks out there that don't have a gaming subscription through Apple or Google, but they do have a Netflix subscription and it is value add. I think that's really, Netflix has been desperate to kind of tell people like, yes, we make really, really great television, like Stranger Things 4, like, oh my God, I have to wait for the last 2 episodes. Why did you do this to me? But it's okay. Maybe I can play some Exploding Kittens in the end time.
Well, and it's, I guess it's one of those things. Netflix, and we've known some of the folks at Netflix for a long, long time, and their number one priority is keeping people subscribed. Yes. So if for some reason people have run out of shows to watch, then okay, play some games until your next, season 3 of Jack Ryan drops, if that's ever coming, or the shows another show we'll be talking about in a minute.
I've turned off other subscriptions, but Disney Plus and Netflix are actually the two where I'm like, no, you have my dollars for the year. Like I prepaid Disney for the year. Here, take my money. Go away. I don't want to hear from you. And we can talk in 12 months.
Yeah, and that is one of the nice things about Netflix and some others, that you can actually pause subscriptions for 2 or 3 months, which can help the pocketbook a little bit, especially with impending recession and all that. Boom. All right. So in other Netflix news, a tone-deaf Squid Game reality show is in development. And this is a hot take from Gizmodo. There's other articles that were salty in their own ways. But who can forget last fall's Korean sensation Netflix show where people fight each other to the death to get lots and lots of money? Well,
I didn't watch it.
Netflix is making. It was fun. I mean, it was grisly, but it was
was.
Yeah. And now let's make
everyone watch it was like, I've been scarred. I'm like, cool.
Let's not get the point of the show.
So let's make a reality show where I trust people won't be fighting to the death, but who knows? We'll start with you, Will. You've seen Squid Game. Are you intrigued by the idea of a reality show here?
I'll be honest. I watched the first episode and then I read the the breakdown on Wikipedia because I didn't want to actually watch it, but I wanted to know what happened. So, but my wife was horrified. I think we watched it before our show. And I think you or somebody, maybe it was Tasia, was like, "Oh, you got to watch it." And I was like, "Okay, we got an hour before the show that I watched it with dinner," which again, bad idea. But yeah, so I've watched one episode and then I read the synopsis.
All right. So Squid Game, The Challenge, which is this show coming, not sure exactly when, but it'll have 456 contestants, just like the original TV show, competing for $4.56 million, making it the largest contestant pool and prize pot in reality television ever. I'm curious to see what sort of things they're going to get them to do, what sort of challenges. I'm not a huge fan. I've never been of these sorts of shows. I've never been a fan of Survivor. People doing extreme things or humiliating themselves on TV to get a prize, or sometimes for some people it's to get a little bit of fame. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. But it just, especially if you've seen the actual TV series, it all feels a little dystopian. Again, I trust there won't be actual killing, but Gray, what's your take on this? Is this another feature of late stage capitalism?
Yeah.
Are you tempted to watch this at all?
No. No. I'm not one for reality TV to begin with. I like a good constructed dramatic storyline. That's kind of where I'm at. And so this is just, not my thing. I'd rather watch sports.
Now, what if we had a version where there's like 3 or 4 people involved and they have like an hour, maybe an hour and 15, maybe an hour and a half, maybe sometimes an hour and 45 minutes if they're kind of out of control, and they have to like eliminate each other. They can turn off the host like turns off the squares at his own whim when someone loses a challenge. We could do that right here. I'm just saying.
No.
You guys are no fun. All right.
Do you have $4.56 million? Because I'm interested. I'm listening. But
maybe Shiba 4.56 million Shiba Inu, which is
not
worth a whole lot at the moment. Okay, Will, a quick story from Will here. Apple TV will stream every MLS game for a decade starting in 2023, and of course they've mangled it. What they really mean is Apple TV Plus, I believe.
Yes.
Or the Apple TV app. Actually, it says some games will be available to non-Apple TV Plus subscribers, but the whole enchilada will be available to people who do an Apple TV Plus a higher tier. So you're not going to get this all built into Apple TV Plus. There is a higher tier here. But Will, when you texted us this afternoon, you were pretty excited about this. Can you give us the recap, and what is the significance of this deal?
So I think it's pretty big because the streaming services, I mean, if you ask people that have cable, a couple of the things that they're still in on is A, sports, and B, news. And this is a big one and a first kind of major, tiptoe into getting a whole sports league. This is the global license. So it's a lot of times, you'll get the North American rights or the European rights or the South American rights or whatever. The other thing is that there's no blackouts. So, for example, DAZN has MLS up until this season, and it's useless to me. I watch the Whitecaps, which is the Vancouver MLS team, because I can't watch games on DAZN MLS for 48 hours. So I'll just watch it on TV, or I'll watch it somewhere else, or I've already found out the result by that point. So this is no blackouts, simulcast. They're opening a studio. They are centralizing everything. And the other thing for me is I'm a season ticket holder, and it's free for season ticket holders.
Nice.
You get the license. So this is also Apple we're going into this space. We're going to take it over. And we're going to convert people, because these are people who are either available to be advertised to or get on Apple TV and see the service. So I think we're going to see more of the big players going into sports. There's already a rumor that the NFL has been sniffing around, trying to find a dance partner. And
big money there.
Yeah. I think I messaged you. I'm not sure there's enough money in the world for a similar deal, but I'm sure somebody will find that money. But I wouldn't be surprised if Google or somebody else sees this as a shot across the bow and goes after the NBA or the NFL, which would be the two other big players. I love the NHL, don't get me wrong, but realistically, the TV market is not what the NFL or the NBA is. this is also interesting given, sorry, there's a sidestep in the story.
Make it quick because we got to let Gray go.
Okay, we're having a pirate golf league that is starting up and cutting out the PGA. They're taking
one in Saudi Arabia.
The one in Saudi Arabia, they're taking all the golfers, and the PGA is kicking them out because they're offering more money. So they're just going, hey, we're going to disrupt the system. We're just going to own professional golf, and you guys can't do anything about it. We're just going to overpay these guys.
Well, I guess that beats their pirate soccer league, where instead of soccer balls, they use the heads of apostates.
Oh, dear. And there is. Yep.
Cancelled.
Gotta love great regimes like Saudi Arabia. Not problematic whatsoever. Thanks for filling us in there, Will. So this is another piece of the Apple TV Plus puzzle. Where we talked a few weeks ago about Friday Night Baseball with the whatever they call the baseball leagues there.
MLB?
The which?
Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball, exactly. You can tell I follow baseball very closely.
I'm really excited about this because I want to be more of a Whitecaps fan, and I feel like this will actually allow me to be more of a Whitecaps fan.
Nice.
Trying to figure out like where to watch, when to watch is a pain in the neck. So this is going to be great. I'm very excited for it.
All right. Very quick picks of the week before we let Gray go, and then Will and I can do ours. Gray, your pick of the week.
Russian Doll season 2. I absolutely loved Russian Doll season 1. Just the comedy, the writing, this one actually takes a very, very interesting turn with some really, really great music in a period of time that I absolutely adore. So it's a bit different than we saw last time.
What's the premise of the series overall? Not season 2 specifically, but of the series. What is the?
So Nadia Volkov is in the beginning of the first season. It's on the night of her 36th birthday, and she dies, and then she wakes up the next day and dies again, and she's reliving this day over and over again. It's kind of Groundhog Day. It's a little like that one with Lonely Island fella there, but it's fascinating as she goes through finding out. As she sort of goes through finding out what's going on. So I believe it was Natasha Lyonne is the main actress, and just crushing it. And the second season seems to have a whole lot more of a personal connection to it. It very much seems to reflect different parts of her life. She's had a very challenging life along the way. So this is a really, really neat series. And I think everyone should take the time to watch it because it's very, very funny. It's very, very incisive, and it's a blast.
I believe was she a co-creator of the series as well? And I've heard a couple of interviews with her, and she sounds like a really interesting person. I've always wanted to watch the show. Just it hasn't gotten bubbled to the top of the list here. Now, there's obviously a lot of drama to it. Do you think that you're a regular sci-fi fan would be interested? That
Absolutely.
Wasn't so much into the drama stuff because it feels kind of sci-fi.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing. It is funny first and foremost. There is a bit of a sci-fi, metaphysical, also philosophical aspect to it. And it's, there's drama, but I think when you see who and what the character is about, you understand why humor is probably the best defense mechanism available.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for sharing with that. I look forward to checking out Russian Doll season 1 and then eventually season 2. Yeah. And see how it compares to Groundhog Day and Edge of Tomorrow. Gray, if you got to go, we'll let you go now, but we'll move on to Will's pick. You on your way, Gray?
Yep.
All right.
See ya.
Hope your week is something.
Momentous.
Will, your pick of the week.
My pick of the week is Miss Marvel. So I think we talked about the trailer on one of our live streams. I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to, actually, to be quite honest. It is a little bit skewed for teenagers, so heavy spoilers there. So if you're a grown adult male like me, some of it may be not exactly in your wheelhouse, but I still think there's enough heart there. There's enough interesting teenage drama. It's sort of Peter Parker for the modern multicultural society that we live in, and almost reimagined to a certain extent. The books have a little bit of a different origin, as well as the powers are a bit different. I mean, we're still seeing this develop, so we don't know 100% how it's all going to turn out. But some of it does seem a bit different. I have to admit, I like the way they changed some of those elements, because there have been parts of this character that again, very complicated, but some of it was tied into comic book politics in terms of not the ethnicity, but in terms of certain management people trying to cut out the X-Men and trying to promote the Inhumans. And there's a Terrigen event, and that was also in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and so there was some tie-ins to try to promote the show and things like that. I think they made her origin a lot cleaner and makes much more sense to her cultural origin, and it's sort of the point of the show. Now, having said that, we're only in episode 1, but I actually really enjoyed it, so I recommend it. Give it a chance, especially if you didn't love some of the original material, like myself. I think this is actually improves on it.
And of course, Disney is making it a little trickier for us now, because I was doing just great when we were alternating between, say, a Marvel show and a Star Wars show. But now they've got Obi-Wan Kenobi still going, and now Ms. Marvel. It's like, guys,
stagger.
Like, we'll keep. We only need one show at a time to keep subscribed. It's okay. You've got our money. So.
Yeah, you got me for a year. Just stagger it, so I got one thing to watch a week. I'm with you on that.
But I always appreciate your perspective on shows like that that are based in the comic book world, given your familiarity with and knowledge of the comics. And we've always said too that the success of a show, whether it's a movie or a TV show, I don't think it necessarily hinges on how faithful it is to the original. It's a question of, does it succeed as a TV show or as a movie? But it's also nice to see how they paid tribute to the source material as well, because fans are going to fan, and it's nice to do it right. You got to make some changes, obviously. Sometimes some comic books are hard to film. Maybe we've had the cases such as as Watchmen, for example, and I think Zack Snyder pulled it off movie wise there, and then they extended that into the Watchmen TV series, which was a whole different take on it too. But I thought still quite successful. But sometimes it doesn't go so well.
So and I appreciate that. I'm glad I add some value to the live stream. But I would also say I totally wholeheartedly agree with you. We've had this conversation before. For me, and it is subjective, it is what is right for the character and what is right for what is trying to be communicated about that character. What is the point about the character? What is the core about the character? Not about whether their blood is purple or green. And there's numerous examples that I can give. Like, for example, in WandaVision, this is a bit of spoiler alert. If you haven't watched all of WandaVision, turn off now. But the kids that come out in the book, the nanny is a half bovine person. They didn't put that in the show. I'm fine with that. I think that makes that would be too much explaining for the show that there's bovine people. Now, having said that, in Doctor Strange, they snuck one of those people in. They just snuck them in.
Did, yeah.
There's ways of doing it, right? So some nerds were like, "Oh my God, they put blah 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 in." But they didn't have to explain it, right? It wasn't a major character, so.
Kind of like how the big baddie in Watchmen, they didn't make it the weird octopus space alien. They made it another character, but they did bring back the baby octopuses in the Watchmen TV series in an interesting way, just at the very beginning, which was a bit of a nod there.
Yeah.
So speaking of what's the point that you mentioned? What's the point of another Jurassic Park movie? Jurassic World Dominion. I saw that.
Did you see it?
I saw that. Stephanie really wanted to see it, and she managed to get tickets, and we snuck away to see it. And she's a fan of the Jurassic Park and Jurassic World series, and for me, the Jurassic Park movies are like Mexican food. It's like I never crave them, but I always enjoy them.
That's good to hear. I've been interested in seeing this one. I didn't love the second one as much as the first one. I actually thought the first one was quite good. I've
Mm-hmm.
heard mixed reviews on
Yeah.
this one.
It's not great, but it's fun. Like, just don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
The fun, I think the neatest part about it is just getting the band back together and
Yeah.
having characters from some of the original Jurassic Park movies, and then Lost World and the Jurassic World movies. So we get people like Sam Neill, and we get people like
Jeff
Jeff Goldblum, and
Laura
the
Dern.
actress Laura Dern, who we know from a much loved problematic Star Wars movie. And then we see some of the new crew, such as
Blue,
the dinosaur and its offspring, and we get Star-Lord in there, and we get the Lady in the Water in there. So that's what if I can't remember names, I just say
so movie characters. There you go.
Yes, exactly. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes.
They were in there eventually. They just took a little while.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun in that respect. You just turn off your brain for a couple hours, and the CG early on I found was a little shaky, surprisingly.
Oh, really?
But then it got way better as it went on. I've seen that a few times. I wonder if they do that in movies on purpose to kind of like make us go, what is happening? And then like, oh no, yeah. So
that's strange.
And some of the writing was like some of the stuff between Sam Neill and Laura Dern early on. It's like they're just saying words. This does not sound like a real human conversation. So, but again, it settled down, got better. It was good, clean fun, good popcorn movie. But
good to hear.
Don't overthink it.
And, I'm not going to too many movies these days, as you know. I hope to go to more movies soon. I think we might be going to a movie soon, but I am excited about seeing this one. I may have to catch it on the small screen, unfortunately. But
if you can find someone to see it with on the big screen, it would definitely benefit. If you see it on the small screen, make sure you got as big a small screen as you can, and as big a sound as you can too, because those sorts of movies benefit from that. Yeah, you can always come over here and watch it someday, but I don't know if I'll pay to see it in the theater again.
No, fair enough. No, it's that's the thing though, is it's hard these days for me to find people as well. Like, I mean, and there's so much coming out that I have a list, as you know, of things that I want to see. So this one may be slightly lower on the list.
The Batman and Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness, like they were definitely, I could rewatch those. This is less rewatchable, I suspect, especially from an economic point of view.
Top Gun is the one that I want to watch most, and then when Thor: Love and Thunder comes out. But there's even a couple other ones that came out recently that I'm keen on watching.
So we're almost at the end. We have a little clip here just to promote the video from our colleague Tasia Custodi.
Whoop, whoop.
So in what took us an hour plus last week to talk about WWDC, Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference 2022 keynote announcements, Tasia does what she does and does a little I think a little 10 minute just over 10 minutes recap of the biggest announcements from WWDC 2022. So not to shoot ourselves in the foot, but if you don't want to watch us blather on, it was the four of us, which was actually a rarity.
Yeah.
We did talk an hour and 15 about it, but she breaks it down to 10 minutes, much more concise, but you don't get all the fun anecdotes.
Yeah, you don't get the comedy and the friendship.
Yeah, exactly. So here's a tip: watch both, and you get the short hit, and you get the director's cut.
There you go. Don't kill our viewership.
Viewership? What's that?
Hi, Mom.
All right. So, Will.
Yes.
We did it. We lost Ray, but he had to go. He had to go, give Ray a ride. We'll see Tasia in another 4 weeks or so.
Yeah.
But it's always good to see you, buddy. And
always good to see you.
And to you and anyone else who's still watching, we hope your week. Oh, hold that thought. First, check us out on Momentous.tv, Facebook.com/MomentousTV, Twitter.com/MomentousTV, Instagram.com/Momentous.tv, and on YouTube, search my name and find the Momentous playlists there. That must have been the worst thing in the world to have to listen to. Hope your week is truly momentous.